Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to more Melanin Podcast, where this podcast is for me to empower, entertain, and elevate. Um, Mainly women, yes. However, I do feel like the things that I talk about on this podcast can be applied to pretty much both sexes, just life in general. So I just want to thank everyone who went and followed and shared my last episode and my social media pages. I really do appreciate. I appreciate the feedback that I got from that, and I hope that we can continue the love and the support. Um, I'm excited because this is my second episode, and you know what's crazy? I thought I wasn't gonna be nervous again, but of course, I am. I just think it's just a natural thing, and right now I'm gonna embrace that because I may be nervous, but at the end of the day, I'm doing something that I'm starting to love. This podcasting thing, I swear, it's like interesting. I don't have a co-host yet. I don't even know if I plan to have one, but until then, I'm going to be talking, pretty much talking to myself and talking to other people about different things and stuff. I do strongly um I do strongly encourage that anyone who listens to this to please be over the age of 18. Only because I'm going to be saying some crazy shit on here. I'm going to be cursing, and I just don't want to, invite the wrong crowd to listen to this podcast. So I do encourage that you are an adult, 18 and older, because things are going to get juicy on here. So let's do a recap. Last week, I spoke about how potential can be dangerous, which was a very interesting thing. I think because I was nervous, I couldn't get out everything that I was feeling. I kind of was just like using examples, but, mainly I got the message out, and it's something that's real. And I think that what I'm going to be talking about today can go hand in hand with that last episode. And today I'm going to be talking about why do we go back to people that hurt us? Why do we go back to these toxic relationships, right? So when we hear toxic relationships, it can be taken a lot of different ways. It can be in a relationship with a significant other. It can be with a friendship, even with a family member, right? And I feel like we see toxic shit almost every goddamn day of our life. We got social media, we got the internet, where there are so much information that is put on there. Some stuff that is just really unavoidable, especially if, you're always on the internet. Not only that, I feel like growing up in Trenton, I seen a lot of toxic shit on the street that I was growing up on. I done heard a lot of toxic shit, right? And so we ask ourselves, what is toxic, right? Do people really understand toxic and how it contributes to unhealthy relationships or just unhealthiness, period? And so, we see it every day, whether we see it from a family member or, a friend or within ourselves. And I think this topic is so important because lately I have been seeing a lot of situations where a lot of people are embracing these toxic relationships, right? Not only just embracing it, but a lot of people that I care about, I see them going through things where they're going back to people that hurt them. And, from the outside looking in, some people may be like, oh, you're dumb or you're stupid. You know what I'm saying? Because we're just thinking like we would never deal with that. But you really can't say that until you actually deal with it, right? And then imagine being a person on the inside. It's a whole different take. And I think that's important for us to understand, that we never really may know what somebody is feeling or why they choose the decisions that they choose in relationships or with just the people that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I don't think that we should judge them. I think that we should always try to come to an understanding, right? So that's what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about why, you know, I'm going to say we because I've been in that situation before too, where I've gone back to something that I probably should not have gone back to. So I'm going to use this word. I'm just going to use it collectively. Why do we go back to things that or people that hurt us, right? And so I think I'm only going to really speak from experience. I had to really break this down to myself because I'm in a different space in my life right now where I'm in a big healing process or going through this big healing journey right now. And my mind, has to understand my past and my past decisions and why I made those decisions, right? And so when I think about why I went back, one of the reasons is because it was easy. I feel like we are in a relationship with somebody, and I'm gonna speak on relationships, like being with another person, right? When I look at why I went back, I was saying that it's easy, right? And it's easy because it's easy to just go back and deal with the same shit. One thing I've learned is that humans are creatures of habit, and when you continue to, or when you learn a habit, it's just something that's really just hard to break. And, you in a relationship and you just thinking like, all right, he cheated on me, but I really love him. And, he's telling me, oh, baby, I'm not going to do it again. And, we just believe him. And so we just like, you know what? Fuck it. All right. I'm going to go back. We ain't really thinking nothing of it until it happened again. And again. And again. And again, right? So when I say that it's easy, it's like there's nothing to really lose when the end game is always going to be the same, right? You're going to go back. He's going to make you feel good again. And then you're going to go right back to the same shit. It do sound crazy a little bit, but it really be the truth. We kind of sometimes as women, we just go back because it's just the easiest thing to do. Another reason why I feel like I would always go back to that toxic relationship is because at that point I thought that was the probably best relationship that I ever had, and I honestly thought that I wasn't gonna get nothing better than that. And that particular reason I feel like can be broken down into several reasons to justify that, right? So when we in a relationship and we thinking like, this is the only person that has ever spent this much amount of money on me, that has ever fucked me this good, that has ever, made me feel like I'm the only one in the world, even though he lies, he cheats, maybe hit me, and at the end of the day, we just thinking like, who else is going to treat me as good like this? Who else is going to fuck me as good as this? And so you start to actually not see your worth. We think that these relationships be the best thing that we have when honestly we are the best thing that we have. And I feel like in relationship we lose sight of that when it comes to why we go back to these toxic ass relationships. We don't see that we deserve better. And I don't want to dive too deep into it. Fuck it. I'm going to dive deep into it, right? Let's be honest. We come from an urban society. I grew up in Trenton, you know what I mean? And I do feel like that a lot of our parents never really taught us what was self-love, how to instill it, and how to maintain it. And even with self-esteem, like that's something that's got to be taught and it's a skill that you have to master to love yourself. And I feel like a lot of those feelings were taken away from us at a very young age. Let's be honest. A lot of our parents come from that drug epidemic, the crack epidemic, alcohol, and not that I'm blaming any parents for the reason why the children are the way that they are, but when we grow up and we see certain things, we kind of think automatically. I think that's just how the mind works. We start to think like that's just a way of living. So some kids grew up to their seeing their parents fighting all the time, calling each other out their name, and stuff like that. And sometimes our parents even worked so much that, they never really took the time out. Let me hold that back. They never really took the time out to show us what self-love is and self-esteem is. And, I don't want to say how to carry yourself, because they never was taught that either, right? More like generational curses. And, as kids, we grow up into these young adults without having that knowledge of self. And we kind of just like fall for anything. And especially with social media being involved so much in our lives, especially this generation, we kind of lose a sense of who we really are. I mean, some parents never taught us who we are, and so it becomes a thing where we have to learn it for ourselves. And some people don't learn it until they 40, bitch. You know what I mean? Like, some people just don't learn it until they 40. And so when we get into these relationships, we just start thinking like, because this is something that's new, this is good, and you feel like you see the potential of this relationship going far, we just stick to that, and we just kind of don't see ourselves deserving any better than that. And it is a sad thing, but it's also like we have to come to an understanding that some people aren't taught certain things, and this is why they choose to think that this person or this relationship would be pretty much the only one or the only person that could pretty much treat them good, And another reason why I think that, why I went to a toxic relationship was because some people think that's what love is. I'm sorry, I'm reading from my notes. I had wrote down some notes because I had to really make sure that I stayed on point and not wander off with my thoughts, because I'm just talking to myself technically. And I'm not gonna lie, I ain't know what love is. Honestly, like, I ain't know what that shit is. Like, I do believe that everybody' perception of love is different. And at that time, I just didn't know. Like, I was young. I was in high school. I just knew that I liked this boy. And, like, my mom is Jamaican, so I couldn't go home and just be like, hey, Mom, I like this boy and so and so. So, we would get one box around. Yo, she would freaking lick me in my head, yo. Like, I'll probably get a freaking ass whooping to be sitting here in high school talking about something I like some boy. And I need to be worried about my education, right? So, so it's just like, I didn't know what love is. And I'm going to be honest, I ain't starting knowing what love is until I started going to therapy. When my therapist started to make me see that I choose what my happiness is for myself, and understanding what I deserve and what, and pretty much how to learn to embrace happy emotions or healthy emotions. And that's why I'm not dating now. Shit, because I just feel like because I'm still learning to love myself, I want to keep this love off of myself. And when I was back in that toxic relationship, like I was loving that person more than I was loving myself. That's why when it ended, I felt like I was going to die. Like not literally, but like my heart felt like it was taken out of my whole body, and I just think that some people just don't know what love is. They just don't know what love is. And, we just have to learn that for ourselves. And I can't tell a person how or what to do to try to learn that. That's just something that you have to dive deep into your soul to figure out. And so when I was writing my notes out for this episode, I had started going through a series of questions to, really understand, like, why do we go back, right? And then I had to come to a realization that, listen, I could talk about why do we go back, but then I also need to mention why it's not worth going back to. And like I said, everything that I'm talking about, it is from my experience. And when I say my experience, from me, myself, and then even just from people that I've seen go through this, through these toxic ass relationships. But one of the reasons why I say that it's not worth going back to is because most likely they will never freaking change. So when I was in this relationship, right, many years ago, I always got cheated on. I always got lied to. And because I will always believe him when he said that he was sorry, I always think like, all right, maybe he's going to change, This apology was different. This time he ain't just say sorry. He's actually apologized and said, like, I would never do this again. I fucked up, making you feel like, all right, very convincing. You know what I mean? That, that you will never have to go back through the hurt that you just went through. And honestly, if a person keeps doing it over and over and over and over and over again, let's be honest, most likely they won't change. And we really have to see it for what it is and not hold on to that potential, because when we do that, holding on to that potential, it will make us continue to go back to that same person that hurt us, right? And another reason why I say that it's not worth going back to, because if you let them do it once, best and believe it will happen again. Now, I'm not saying that, sometimes it's just certain things, right? Like, when I say certain things, like, let's say you and your boyfriend have an argument, and he, like, both of y'all are mad at each other, and he just happened to call you a bitch. Probably never called you a bitch before, but called you a bitch then, right? Now, to me, that's something that I feel like that can be talked about, because, when two people are angry at each other, they sometimes say some things to each other that could be hurtful, right? But I feel like that hurt right there is something, you know what? I can't even say that, because sometimes you let a nigga call you a bitch that one time, and you got to just put that nigga right in his place. You going to have to address that situation right then and there to let that motherfucker know that you will not tolerate that type of that type of talk. And I don't think that was a good example. Let me give you another example, right? Let's say a person cheats on you, and they come back pleading the fifth, saying, I'm sorry, baby, I will never do it again. I promise, I fucked up. And us women, we just be like, babe, but you really hurt me. And you be like, babe, you really hurt me. Like, you don't know how bad that hurt. Like, you know how it is, right? And then you just say, all right, I'll let you back in. Sometimes we let motherfuckers back in the next day, the next hour. right? Sometimes some people's a little harder than that. They like, oh, I'm gonna get this nigga 2 weeks, and then I'm gonna let him back in, right? But when you open up that door to let them back in, sometimes I feel like as women, we don't really sit and think like, is it possible that this can happen again? You know, and then I feel like we hide that thought, and that's when we become insecure, and that's when we realize that the trust is broken, which is honestly the next reason why I said that it's not worth going back. Because once a person lies to you, once a person do something to you to hurt you to an extent where you start to lose yourself as a person, you know, you have to realize that the trust is just freaking broken, right? And the funny thing is that it's a waste of time holding on to that potential. You know what I mean? It's a waste of time to really think like he's gonna really do right by me after you went through, oh my God, years of freaking hurt and lies and cheating and sometimes even abuse. And we have to understand that sometimes, ladies, it's really not worth going back. And it's not a matter of like that person is not worth it. It's more thinking of it like you value and love yourself enough to not go back to what hurt you. And I feel like as women, especially like my age, I'm 24. We don't really think like that. Like we just be like, we're gonna go back, you know, we talked about it and blase, and it's just done. And then you back with the same shit. You back going through the same cheating and the same lies and the same fights. And sis, you know, it's not worth it. And another thing I feel like as women that we need to understand is that sometimes we break from a relationship and we are so confident in ourselves that we are not going to go back, because sometimes it gets so deep. Some situations get so deep where you just like know, you know, in your heart, it's like stabbing you in your heart that is, you can't go back. You just can't go back. And then we convince ourselves as time goes by, we start to not even convince. As time goes by, we start to recap on all of the good memories that we had with that person, and they kind of really overflow and overtake the reasons why you left in the first place. And in my notes, I had said that ways to keep yourself from going back. And we just have to acknowledge sometimes that, you know, we were with that person for a reason, whether it was a lesson or a blessing. We have to just acknowledge that it's a loss. Sometimes we get caught up in this thing where like, oh, and it's a control thing. Like, oh, I've been with this nigga for this amount of years, and he got me fucked up to think that if we stop fucking around, he gonna go fuck with the next bitch, right? And I feel like that's like one of the main reasons, because a lot of us females, we really be thinking like that, like, oh, fuck that, he gonna go start fucking with this bitch, and then it's gonna hurt you more. And we just have to acknowledge that, sis, we let him go for a reason. Let his ass go. Go through the emotions. You know, we don't take our time to go through the emotions and really understand that, yeah, this hurts, but in the end, it will be worth it, because then you'll have your dignity back. You'll have your freaking pride back to yourself. You have yourself back. And you'll be able to learn to love and forgive yourself for putting yourself through all of that havoc, you know? It's funny because I was just recently in a relationship, and I want to say that I'm so proud of myself, because I had experienced some hurt that I had felt before in that relationship. And I honestly decided to not go back. Why? Because I did not want that to be my story. I had been there. I had done that where I went back multiple times thinking that something or that person was going to change, or, they would never put me through this again. But it's just certain things you just can't come back from. And when the trust is broken, the trust is just broken. It's just broken. And I'm not saying that, there isn't hope for a relationship to be fixed. But I just feel like that if someone really loved you, they would never, ever put you in a position where you're hurt from something that they did or something that they said. And that they would never even think twice to hurt you because they would never, or they don't feel like you deserve that. And ladies, we have to really see that sometimes we just don't deserve those things. Sometimes we just don't. Sometimes some people just don't deserve us. And it's okay. Like, every relationship is not meant to be. I feel like every person that comes into your life, whether it's just a friend, a stranger, anybody, is either going to be a lesson or it's going to be a fucking blessing. And we have to take it like that. And you have to ask yourself, what is your story? Like, do you want to be, I don't even want to say that because I don't want to make it seem like I'm low key judging. But like, you have to ask yourself, what do you feel like you deserve? Do you feel like you deserve to continue to go through all that hurt? Because don't get me wrong, sometimes pain is comforting to people. Aside from all this, sometimes this is what people like. This is what people want. And by any means, if that's what you want for your life, then that's what you want for your life. I can't change the way of thinking, but the only thing that I feel like that as a woman that I will do is to just tell you that you deserve so much more than to allow yourself to go back to a person that hurt you. And that this world has so much to offer. This universe has so much to offer. And when I say offer, meaning like growth. And you don't have to stay stuck. You just don't. You don't have to stay stuck. And it was funny because I was talking to my coworker on Friday, and I was telling her the topic that I was going to talk about. And we started throwing out mad pointers, just a regular conversation, girl talk. And I had to mention, I'm like, you know what? Sometimes we look at other people as being toxic, but bitch, sometimes we be toxic our goddamn selves. And that's just a matter of acknowledging your responsibility, like of your taking responsibility of your actions. Like, let's keep it real. Some of us women, bitch, we be toxic as fuck. And we like that toxic shit. And then we try to turn it on the men to make it seem like, oh, nigga, you toxic. You fucked me over. You did this and you did that. And sometimes we be toxic because sometimes y'all be fucking on the low too. I'm just saying. Like, it don't always be the men. It be the women too. And that's why I'm going to, like, wrap this up to say that men and women, you have to know what you deserve. And I feel like there's so much information out here on the internet that you can pretty much figure it out. And I don't want to just assume that somebody can figure it out, but if you're looking for answers, trust me, there are thousands of people who has been through these things, who have came out of these toxic relationships, and they can really offer some insight to help you grow, to help you start to love yourself, to help you start to realize that you deserve so much more, sis. You ain't got to go back to that toxic ass relationship. Start to love you for you and grow for you, so that when you do finally meet somebody, that you know what you're going to take and what you're not going to take. And I feel like in order for us to get to that point, we have to be alone. We have to be alone to really figure ourselves out, because at this point, I am not going back into another relationship until I feel like I can trust myself enough to make healthy decisions with that person. And that person understands me too. Like, I don't want to go into a relationship, still mad at my old relationship and bringing it into the new relationship, because honestly, that's toxic ass behavior too. And people, we just deserve more. And it takes sometimes for us to bump our heads a couple times to realize that we do deserve more. And it's okay. We ain't perfect. We ain't perfect at all. But understand that you deserve better. You do not have to go back to what hurt you. And you have to start to love and learn to forgive yourself. Loving and forgiving yourself is important at the end of the day. And, back to be said, I wish I had a co-host so me and this person can just talk back and forth to each other, because when you talking to yourself, it just be feeling like, all right. In my head, I'm like, all right, I made that point, and then you just got to get right back to the next point. But it's all good. I do hope that this episode is serving to someone. I hope that it does empower and motivate someone to realize that they deserve better, and hopefully get out of that hurt and that funk that they're in. And, we can all be great together and just move on and grow, elevate, But I do thank you guys for listening. I hope that you share this, you go and follow the pages, and share this with a friend that you may feel is going through what I just spoke about. So I'm going to wrap this up because I don't know what else to talk about or say. I pretty much talked about all of the points that I had wrote out. And thank you for tuning in. And I'll see you next time. Later. Bye.